Coming up on Marriage Today with Jimmy and Karen.
You have a 100% chance of success in marriage. You were made for marriage. God made you in your mother's womb, and you were made for marriage. And some people just think, I don't know that I can succeed in marriage. I'm fearful of marriage. I have a 50-50 chance. You don't have a 50-50 chance. You have a 100% chance if you do it God's way. When you don't understand the laws of marriage, it's a really scary thing. And it was for Karen and me. We got married at 19 years old. We didn't have any pre-marriage preparation before we got married, and so we didn't know. And honestly, I just thought you're either lucky enough to marry the right person or you're unlucky and you marry the wrong person. And honestly, I loved Karen. I was very attracted to her. But I thought I married the wrong person after a few years of marriage, and she did too, because it just wasn't working. We didn't know. No one ever told us. We were violating every law of marriage. And so some of you watching right now, you love each other and God put you together, but you may be frustrated, you may be discouraged, you may be fearful because you've failed before in marriages, or you feel like you're failing now and you don't know what to do. I just want to give you the good news. When God creates anything, He creates it for success. And when God creates anything, He creates it upon the laws of His kingdom and the laws of His Word. So when God created marriage, He said some very important words. And this is Genesis 2:24 and 25. You probably heard this before. It says, "Therefore a man shall leave his father and mother, and shall cleave to his wife, and they shall be one flesh. And they were both naked, the man and his wife, and they were not ashamed." Now, I'd heard that scripture read, and I'd heard it at marriages and at weddings and things like that, but I never knew that those were the 4 foundational laws of marriage, and that everything, God created marriage and He spoke those words, and when He spoke those words, He created a foundation for marriage that would ensure that every marriage could succeed. Now, listen to what I'm about to say. You have a 100% chance of success in marriage. You were made for marriage. God made you in your mother's womb, and you were made for marriage. And some people just think, I don't know that I can succeed in marriage. I'm fearful of marriage. I have a 50-50 chance. You don't have a 50-50 chance. You have a 100% chance if you do it God's way. Let me tell you the other good news. It's not complicated. If it was complicated, I couldn't do it. God doesn't use me to do this because I'm special. God uses me to do this because if I can do it, anybody can do it. So the first law of marriage is the law of priority. The Bible says, "For this cause, a man shall leave his father and his mother." The word leave there doesn't mean you mistreat your father or mother. It just means you reprioritize. Before you get married, they're your closest blood kin. Before you marry, if it came down to it, they're the most important priority in your life. But what it says is, for this cause, not for every cause, but for this cause, you've got to reprioritize your relationship, and don't be mean to your mom and dad. Don't do anything unbecoming, but you've got to reprioritize, and now your spouse becomes first. Listen, marriage only works in first place. It won't work in any other place. And so we have to reprioritize our lives and able to do this. Now let me talk about legitimate jealousy for just a minute, because there is a bad kind of jealousy, but when we get married, there is a natural jealousy that is inside of us that God puts there. Let me give you an example of this. We have 2 children. Our children are in their 30s, and when our daughter Julie was born, we got married at 19, and Julie was born when we were 20. And about 12 months after we got married, because we're all doing the math. And Julie was born, and she was born, I had not held her. That was before the days that guys went into the room when babies were being birthed. So I was waiting outside. Julie was born, and they took her into where they cleaned her off and measured her and all those things. And so I had never held Julie. I had just, obviously Karen was pregnant, and then when she was laying in this little room with these nurses, I was looking in the window at her, and one of the nurses walked up and grabbed her by the heels, how they do to measure them. And she just grabbed her by her heels and just hung her by her heels to measure her. I almost went through the plate glass window. I mean, literally, my body just said, jump through there and rescue her. That woman was, handled like a sack of taters, and so it frightened me. Well, what I realized was the instant that my daughter was born, I became a protective father. I never read a book about it. Nothing ever told me I was supposed to do that. It was instinctive. When you stand at the altar and get married, or you get married, something God places something inside of you that says, you belong to me first. Before your parents, before your friends, before the kids, before your work, before athletics, you belong to me first. It happens with both of us. And so remember, in Exodus 34:14, God says, my name is jealous. God. One of the names of God in the Bible is capital J, jealous. And jealous means intolerant of rivalry. God is not sick jealous. He is passionate jealous. God loves us, and He fights for the relationship. And God resents anything in our life that has taken His place, because God deserves first place, right? Okay, so God wants first place. He believes that He deserves first place, and He does. So when God sees us giving His place to somebody else, God becomes jealous. Again, not out of an emotional unhealth, but out of passion. I'm thankful that I serve a God who loves me and fights for the relationship. I am. Okay, but in marriage, you naturally will become jealous when something has taken your place in your spouse's life. They did a study of couples, and they found, and this is not a good study, this was just, but it was a real study. And they found that couples that first get married, we hear about the honeymoon being over, they're the happiest. And this is a secular survey. Shouldn't be that way, but they are. And the reason is nothing has happened in the beginning of the marriage to upset the priorities of the marriage. But when children come into the marriage, the satisfaction of the marriage typically drops. Again, there's nothing wrong with kids. Kids are a blessing. But when children come into the marriage, what typically happens is a man turns his attention more to his career. A woman turns her attention more to the children. And the priority of the marriage is lost. When children enter into secondary education, junior high and high school, marriage satisfaction is typically at its lowest. And that is because the kids are active, they need a chauffeur, they're socially active, and they need a lot of attention, and they need a lot of money. And once again, they do. And so there's pressure on the father, there's pressure on the mother, and again, they're not spending time together. Once the kids leave home, when they're 18, 19, 38, once they leave home, the marriage satisfaction goes up, typically at that point, but unfortunately, never as much as it was before. And let me tell you the sad part about that is God made marriage to get better every year. God never makes anything to fail. How sick is it that the rookie's supposed to be the best? Is there any other area of life where the rookie is supposed to be the example? And what a terrible thing to say is, oh, how long have you been married? Well, we've been married 10 years. Well, the honeymoon's over. Well, now you got a lifetime of drudgery ahead of you. Good luck. You know, marriage gets better when you do it God's way. And it only works in first place. It won't work in third or fourth place. Believe me, I tried. And so here's how to establish and maintain the right priorities in your marriage. There's two steps. One is they have to be proven in real terms, not just words. You can't just say, you're first in my life. You have to prove that your spouse is first in your life. And here are 4 ways that you prove your priorities in marriage. They're very simple. One is sacrifice. What will you give up for me? It's real simple. What will you give? Golf, and golf is of the Lord, is that golf almost ruined our marriage because Karen, early in our marriage, I golfed all the time. Karen wanted me to give up golf. I told her, I said, no, but you can come caddy for me. It was a near-death experience. I saw the white light, the whole thing. And is that I wouldn't give up golf for her, but I didn't understand why she was so upset. What will you give up for me? Now, I want you to listen to me just a minute. Now, the second one is time. Sacrifice, what will you give up for me? The second one is time, consistent with priority. If you're telling me that I'm first, there has to be time. Time is the essential commodity of relationship. To ruin your relationships, all I have to do is keep time away from you. And there's the old saying, if the devil can't get in front of you and stop you, he'll get behind you and push you too fast. And people are going too fast, and they don't have time for family. They don't have time for each other. And we have to cut back. What will you give up for me, and how much time are you going to give me? Let me say this. When Karen and I got married, there weren't cell phones. There weren't computers. There weren't fax machines. There weren't cars. There were cars. We had cars back then. But listen, there weren't computers and cell phones and all that. So when you were with a person, you were with that person. If you were on a date and you were like eating dinner, it was just you. No one else was with you. Today, we have so much electronic intrusion into our lives. And when you're dating, here's what happens. When you're dating, your phone rings and you look at it and turn it off. Whoever's calling you, you turn it off because it's like, sorry, someone's trying to get a hold of me, but you're more important. You're more important. I'm going to sacrifice talking to my friend because of you. When you're married, you take the call. And what happens is, sometimes it's okay. Sometimes you're together and it's a casual getting together. But I'm telling you, there's sometimes I'm with Karen, I don't want her talking on her telephone. And she didn't want me talking on my telephone. And what this means is I'm going to sacrifice being connected to everybody on earth for as long as it takes for us to bond. And let me say something. Electronics are great, and I believe in technology. It's a good servant, but it's a terrible master. It will destroy your relationships if you don't discipline it. The second way that you prove priorities is you have to constantly protect them from good things out of priority. Good things out of priority. Most of the things that destroy marriages aren't bad things. They're good things out of priority. Let me give you an example. When I went into the ministry, Karen and I had a real problem early in our marriage with golf, work and golf. And I hung up my golf clubs for several years, and it healed our marriage. Because what it communicated to Karen is she was first in my life. And I gave her then the time that golf was taking from her. And now she doesn't mind if I play golf because she knows that she comes first. But when I came into the ministry, I was in business before I came into the ministry. The Lord healed our marriage. People started coming to us for marriage counseling. The pastor of our church walked up to me and said, would you come on staff to do marriage counseling? I was shocked because I didn't feel qualified. I'd never had any formal training in that. But I came on staff to do marriage counseling, and then 10 months later, he left to take a church in Florida, and I became the senior pastor of our church at 29 years old. I was terrified. I didn't know how to preach a sermon. I didn't know how to do a funeral or a wedding. I didn't know how to manage a staff. Our church was 900 people at that time. And I had no experience. And I had no friends in the ministry. All my friends were in the appliance business. They were worthless at that point in time. You know what I mean? Hey, Bob, how do you pastor somebody, you know? But it just, so I was in ministry, didn't have any friends in ministry, 29 years old, and I was obsessed. Well, I had fear of failure, fear of rejection. All those things were motivating me. And I worked too much. And when I came home, Karen's the best wife in the world, and she was totally supportive of me being in ministry and pastoring and all that. But I would come home after 12 or 14-hour days, and when I came home, again, Karen's a great wife, but she would say, Brent needs this, Julie needs this, I need this. And that's not what I wanted to hear. What I wanted to hear when I came home is, thank you for saving the world from evil. And you're the greatest man on earth, and come in, you don't have to lift a finger, we're going to do everything for you. But she didn't do that. Julie needs this, Brent needs this, and I need this. And it's like, I'm tired. I'm tired. And she said, I know you're tired. But Julie needs this, Brent needs this, and I need this. And so we got in a fight over it. And I just thought, she's persecuting the Lord's anointed. And I did. That's what I thought. I just thought that. So I told her that, by the way. Well, we got in a fight. We got in a big fight over it. Now, finally, I decided I'm sleeping on the couch. I'm not going to let the sister have the blessing of me being in bed with her. And I think she slept better, actually. Honestly. I slept on the couch for several nights. I knew she was wrong. I knew she was wrong. No doubt in my mind she was wrong. And I was laying there one night sanctimoniously, and I was laying there like third night on the couch, and I was praying for her. And I thought, Lord, help her. You know, here's what the Lord spoke to me. I'll never forget it. Spoke to my heart. Jimmy, you have communicated to Karen in real terms that the church is more important than she is. Now you repent, and you go tell her you're wrong. And I thought, you mean I've spent 3 nights on the couch to hear that? And I went and I told Karen, I said, Karen, I'm full of fear. I'm driven. I'm giving everything to the church. And I said, I'm so sorry. And I said, I'm going to leave the ministry. I'll go back in the appliance business. We'll get our lives right. And Karen said, Jimmy, you're supposed to be in the ministry. Don't leave the ministry. But we need you first. And from that point forward, I changed. Because I decided I wasn't going to lay my family on the altar of success. And let me say this. Sometimes we get confused between God and church. The most important thing in my life is God, but that's my personal relationship with God. That's not church. The second most important thing in my life is my wife. The third is my children. The fourth is in church and extended family and work. It comes all the way down here. And like I said before, a lot of times the things that are threatening our relationship aren't bad things. They're good things out of priority. Children. Nothing is as important, God in a marriage, children. But some people say, well, my children, you know, I live for my children. That's good, but listen, your children are a temporary assignment. They come and go. Listen, I remember when they put our kids in our hands, and I remember when we gave them away at their weddings. And they don't want you following them around the rest of their life. They want to be in a relationship. But listen, when you give your marriage up for your children, how are your children going to succeed in marriage if you don't show them how? And the number one thing they need to see is you prioritizing your marriage. I want to say something to blended families, because I know probably half of you guys are blended families. A lot of people watching are blended families. In an intact nuclear family, you have a marriage and then children. It doesn't mean there aren't challenges there, because there are, but you have a marriage and then you have children. In a blended family, you have children then a marriage. Families don't build around children, they build around a marriage. Marriage is the nucleus of that. And I want to say, if you're in a blended family, the number one issue in succeeding as a blended family is making your marriage first. And sometimes children are hurt. There might have been a previous marriage. There might be loyalty to a biological parent. And there may be animosity, even hostility toward the non-biological parent or whatever, which creates confused emotions and all of that. I want to say this one more time. If your children have been through a bad circumstance and they've seen a failed marriage, the best thing you can do for your children is show them how to succeed in marriage. And say to them, honey, I love you. There's nothing more important in my life than God and my husband, and I love you too. But my priority is the marriage. And we're going to have a strong marriage, and we're going to be a united front. And as a united front and as a couple, we're going to parent you. The parents need to be the parents. There may be misunderstanding or difficulty or whatever. Your marriage has to come first. And in a blended family, it's not the exception. You have to put your marriage at the core of the relationship, and then the children relate around the marriage, not the other way. Otherwise, you become divided. The number one law of marriage is the law of priority. It only works in first place. Let me say this. It's a challenge, and some of you may be violating that law, and your spouse is complaining. They feel jealous. And they're complaining about your work. They're complaining about the kids. They're complaining about this or that. Not bad things, just good things out of priority. What your spouse needs to hear from you in real terms is, I'll make any changes in my life I need to make. But except for Jesus Christ, you are the priority in my life. It's not a principle that's for a few. It's a law. It's the only way that marriage works. What we have right now in our full Marriage on the Rock seminar is the fullest and most complete and most updated seminar that I've ever done. And it includes the issue now of blended families, the most important issue in marriage, the 4 foundational laws of marriage, how to understand and meet your spouse's needs, finances, sex, in-laws, all of those kinds of things are covered in Marriage on the Rock. Right now, for your gift of any amount to support the ministry and mission of Marriage Today, we go across America and all over the world helping people succeed in marriage and helping little children stay together with their parents, helping people to achieve their dreams and to keep the nightmare of divorce and family problems from happening. And so if you would support us right now, we'll send you a CD single called The Most Important Issue in Marriage. And it is the most important issue in marriage. It's the most important marriage teaching you'll ever hear, I promise, for your gift of any amount. For your gift of $50 or more, we're going to send you the full 10-part audio series, Marriage on the Rock, all the teachings included, with the Marriage on the Rock book also. For your gift of $110, I know some of you, $50 would be a sacrifice for you, $20 would be a sacrifice. Some of you can give $110, and for that, we'll send you the DVD series, all 10 sessions on DVD, plus the Marriage on the Rock book, and plus a bonus book, Happy, Happy Love, which gives you the secrets of how to stay in love. We want you to get these important resources. Here's how you can do it.
Marriage on the Rock, the best-selling book and series, is the essential resource to having the marriage of your dreams. Through this power-packed series, marriage expert Jimmy Evans will show you how to deal with real-life challenges and offer easy-to-understand solutions that will transform your relationship. Jimmy will address all the major issues a couple will encounter, like communication, finances, sex, kids, his and her needs, blended families, and much more. For your gift of any amount, you'll receive the CD single, The Most Important Issue in Marriage. For your gift of $50 or more, we'll send you the Marriage on the Rock book and CD series. For your gift of $110 or more, you'll receive the book and DVD series, plus the Passion Reigniting Happy Happy Love book. Discover God's design for your dream marriage. Whether you've been married for years or just preparing for the journey, experience Marriage on the Rock today.
Love in our society has become a very fickle thing. Fewer and fewer people are being married because many people don't understand it. Many people fear it. God has a plan for marriage, and every person can succeed in marriage. This is about helping us to have a better future and helping us to build a family that will last.
If you will press into God, you will make it in your marriage. I mean, you will. I'm just saying, you will.
What does the Bible say? If any two on earth touch as agreeing, it'll be done for them. Husbands and wives, pray like never before for the blessing of God to break out in your marriage.
Would you be the person to build a family that lasts? This program today is talking about priorities in marriage. God made marriage to be the number one priority, except for our personal relationship with Jesus Christ. And it won't work any other way. We tried it, and our marriage almost failed. I was sharing that in the teaching today. But let me tell you what I want to challenge you in. If you've been married for much time at all, probably your priorities have suffered. And again, it's not what you say, it's what you do. In real terms, you might say to your spouse that you love them first, but do you give them more energy than the children? Do you give them more energy than work or friends or church or other good things? Most things that destroy marriages are not bad things. They're good things out of priority. And when something else comes before your marriage and comes before your spouse, there are going to be problems. There's going to be resentment. And they're going to begin to sound off to you. And here's my challenge to you today. If you've been married for very long and your priorities have begun to suffer, your marriage has suffered. And the passion that you once felt toward your spouse, it's not there anymore. I'm not saying you don't love them or you don't have any passion towards your marriage, but maybe you look at TV shows or movies or friends or other people and you're thinking, man, they have the kind of marriage that I want. You know, I thought that's what I was getting into, but now, you know, it's kind of turned out to be a dud marriage. You can have a passionate marriage and you can change your marriage. You don't have to wait on your spouse. You can do the right thing first. The best person does the right thing first and becomes the redeemer in the relationship. And my encouragement to you is this. If your priorities have suffered, and you may say, well, my spouse is doing this and my spouse is doing this, okay, well then you be the game changer. You be the redeemer. Has anything come before your spouse in your life? I'm talking about practically now. When you're with them, are you on your phone all the time? Are you texting all the time? Are you tired because you gave all your energies to someone else? Are you pursuing them like you did when you first dated? And you said, well, wait a minute now, you know, we've been married for a long time. We don't have to do that anymore. Of course you have to do that. It never changes. People who have great marriages have the discipline in their relationship that they keep it first and they keep working at it. And people who have bad marriages, if you'll notice, some of the most famous people in the world, some of the prettiest and richest people in the world go through marriage after marriage after marriage. And you say, well, why do they keep failing? It's just, these are laws. These are the 4 foundational laws of marriage. And the number one law is marriage is first. We come to encourage you in your marriage and family relationships because you know something, if you're happy in your marriage and family, you're happy. But it doesn't matter what else you have if you don't have a good marriage. And marriage is something that God looked at Adam once he had made Adam, and he said, it's not good for him to be alone. And he made a woman, and he put them together to have a family, and that is just the basic building block, not just of society, but of our lives. And you can make it in marriage. You may be struggling right now, you may be frustrated right now, but you can make it in marriage. The law of priority says marriage is first. Remember that, and you'll succeed in marriage. We're able to come to you. I hope that you've been blessed in this program, and if you watch our program regularly, that I hope it's a blessing to you and an encouragement. But we can only come to you because of our precious partners who stand with us financially. We're a private Christian ministry. We don't have advertisers. The only way we're with you right now is someone cared enough about you to give us finances to produce this program and buy this airtime. And we're asking you to do that now by becoming a supporter of Marriage Today. We have precious, important monthly supporters called our Rock Solid Partners. Karen and I are asking you to become one of those, and here's how you can do it.
When you stand with Marriage Today, your individual effort multiplies with other like-minded partners, and together we can rebuild the dream of marriage for couples around the world.
I would recommend becoming a Rock Solid Partner because you are grafting into a group of individuals that are committed to restoring marriage to this country, and that's something we want to be a part of.
In pursuit of this vital mission, Marriage Today utilizes a daily television broadcast, multiple live events, a comprehensive online outreach, and hundreds of marriage-building resources. Your partnership is literally making every facet of this ministry possible, and that means couples are receiving the help and hope they need to take their marriage to the next level of fulfillment and intimacy.
We enjoy the resources, we enjoy all of it, but I think just knowing that we're touching the lives of so many other marriages, creating an atmosphere for them to get the help they need.
Being a rock-solid partner with Marriage Today grants you immediate access to an exclusive library of the ministry's resources and intimately connects you with our mission of helping couples succeed in marriage.
We're proof that the ministry is beneficial and that it works. It has helped to save us, and that means that our children get to grow up with two parents in a home together. It makes a difference in our lives every single day that I couldn't imagine not being a partner.
Everyone has something to give, and there are millions of unreached couples who desperately need the marriage-strengthening resources of Marriage Today. That's why we need you to join us. Become a rock-solid partner with the ministry and mission of Marriage Today.
Thank you for watching Marriage Today with Jimmy and Karen. Support Marriage Today with your best gift and receive the series Marriage on the Rock. Don't miss the XO Houston Marriage Conference with Jimmy and Karen Evans, July 10th and 11th at Lakewood Church in Houston, Texas. Register online at xohouston.com. Start a path to emotional health and healing with daily videos, devotionals, and personal challenges from Jimmy Evans. Available now at 21dayjourney.com. Become a rock-solid partner today and connect with the mission of Marriage Today. Together, we can help couples succeed in marriage.
This program is made possible by the generous support of our faithful partners.